So here we were, minding our own business on Turtle Island, and, with all our inherent authority, our territory, our own government, our own legal system, our ability to make treaties or agreements with other nations, our own education system, Everybody has an education system, otherwise how would we exist here for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years without that? We had our own health care. We had our own social system of taking care of our people. So we had everything. We have the inherent authority to do that. And so this is what it was like the day before they arrived. The day after they arrived, we still had that. What the government, Canada was created by this crown. In Great Britain, they created, through an act of the British Parliament, they created Canada. Canada is not a nation. Canada is a state. It's an artificial entity. It was created by the British North American Act. They call it BNA Act, 1867. Under the British. So, Canada doesn't have its own legal system. They use the French and the English system, not unlike our laws. They don't have a real government structure. It's based on the British system. We have our own governmental structure. Like the government we have amongst the Cree peoples is very different in some ways from the Haudenosaunee government, but we still, understand the inherent responsibility that we have. Their government is created based on something that comes from across the other side. So they don't have the territory because the territory that they're occupying is our territory. And I think the last time I was here, when was I here last? I think a year ago. Something very significant has happened since then. In February of this year, in 2012, Canada was before the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination in Geneva. They have to make, in so many years, Canada has to make a report to CERD on what they were doing. But in there, they had written a paragraph related to our lands. Under international law, Canada, because they're saying that they have title to our lands, they are obligated under international law to produce the document that says this is our title. They have to produce that. So in the CERD meeting in February, they were asked, what document are you relying on to have title to the lands of the Indigenous nations that are now within the state of Canada? What document are you relying on? Canada did not answer. They did not answer because there's no document. They cannot produce it. But the obligation is on them. Because all we have to do, I guess I shouldn't touch the mic. All we have to do as Indigenous nations and say, we were here before at the time of contact, and this is our territory. Now the other side has to produce this. So what happened in the CERD meeting was that Canada didn't answer. So the expert from Great Britain, his name Patrick Thornberry, says to Canada in the meeting, so if you cannot produce title to the land, how much of the resource wealth does the Indigenous nations get from the lands and resources of their territories? 100%? 90%? 80%? They went all the way down to zero. Canada would not answer. So they do not have jurisdiction over our lands and territories. They don't. So that's very clear. So Canada is a state. But what happened? Let me tell you what happened, just as a sidetrack. Canada has 3 months from the CERD meeting to provide written response. So they had February, March, April. Well, I think they gave them March, April, May. So they had till the end of May to respond. They didn't. So the CERD committee delegated Dr. Amir, who's the expert from Algiers, to come to Canada, and he did come. And I think he also came to Kahnawake in June. And he tried to meet with Canada. Well, he came to the west, and then he came back to the west or east, and he tried to meet with Canada, and Canada refused to meet with him. Just refused to meet with him. And I was talking to him on the phone because I didn't travel with him. One of the chiefs from Western Canada did. And I was talking to him on the phone, and he said, "You know, Sharon," he said, "they think that they can just ignore me. They think they can just not meet with me." He said, "They forget I'm appointed by the General Assembly. And I will report to the General Assembly about the way I've been treated here." He said, "So if Canada thinks they're going to get away with something, they got to think again."